Hi, everyone. This is Katie Sweetman with Empowering Astrology, and this is your weekly look at the astrology. It's May 25th through 31st, 2020. So, thank you all for joining me live, or if you're watching on the replay, you can watch this on YouTube, you can watch this on IGTV as part of my Instagram. Channel and also on Spotify. So yeah, let's look at the astrology this week. I really do hope you all are well. I know here in the United States, it's a holiday weekend. I know that we are in slightly unusual times, so that might mean something different for you and your ability to spend some time outdoors. I'm in here in New York City. For those who do know me or those who don't know me, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. I'm also a psychic medium, so I also kind of bring in a lot of different, let's say, tools into my professional toolbox when I work with you, not just astrology. So yeah, if you're listening live, let me know how you're doing. Let me know where you're from. As I've said before, we are an international audience, so my Sag rising likes to know where everybody is connecting from. But if this is your first time getting to know me, I like to kind of give a periodic introduction to who I am and the work that I do. As I was saying a few moments ago, I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. I'm an astrologer. I've been a professional astrologer for almost a decade, but I'm also a psychic medium. So I sort of have a very particular viewpoint on astrology. Maybe this is the fact that I have Sagittarius rising, the sign that's about philosophy and sort of seeing things a certain way and wanting to share and teach that philosophy. But the way that I see astrology is that you have your own chart, this natal chart, this birth chart that you were born with, and it's like a house that you live in. And so there's certain places in the house that are for career, for relationships, for home and family and health. And you are a person that lives in this house. You sort of inhabit this space. And so when I work with people, this is why empowering astrology is astrology for healing and transformation, because I want each and every one of you to sort of live in this house, live in your chart to the fullest of its potential. This means we have to work on ourselves. We have to sort of uncover all our hidden layers that might be preventing us from living in the fullness of this house. I meet people sometimes and it's as if they're living in a little closet in one of those rooms in the house. So our work together is to sort of open things up and to show you all around. So that's why my work, I call it holistic astrology. When I work with somebody, I want people, we're working on the astrology side of things, but also working on the you side of things. And then I'm bringing in your spirit guides, and they're sort of giving sometimes very pointed observations on how to motivate you and get you to live in the fullness of who you are. So that's the work that I do. I've been doing it under Empowering Astrology for the last decade. And, I was thinking about it. We've been doing these Facebook Lives for, I think, just short of a year. I think I started doing it at the Sagittarius full moon. In fact, the Sagittarius full moon in 2020 is 2 weeks from now. So we're coming up on my first anniversary. So I thank you all for spending time. I know I've heard from some of you and you're like, I watch you every week. I carve out time to listen to you. I feel like I know you. I get that a lot with my clients. So I feel like I know you already. And I was like, oh, that's great. Let's get to know you. But let's look at the astrology this week. And when we talked last week, we were just about to have a Gemini new moon. And so we had that Gemini new moon on May 22nd. And if you missed my video from last week, go back and watch it. And because I talked about what the new moon meant for each sign. And just a refresh for those that don't know, new moons are new beginnings. They open us up to a new lunar month. And when we step into a new lunar month, we are now living life and having experiences through the prism of that sign. So Gemini, what's Gemini? Gemini is information, it's communication, it's ideas, it's learning, it's movement, it's travel. Gemini is also choices. Gemini, being the sign of the twins, is about duality. And so Gemini teaches us that it's a left or a right, an up or a down, yes or a no. And we have to sort of gather information and kind of get different perspectives to help us to understand our choices. So this is why sometimes, if you have a lot of Gemini energy in your chart, which I do, I have a Gemini moon, we want to do it all. We want to do 15 million things. I can't just do one thing. I have to do 9. I have to have everything in 2 colors and pairs, and I manifest pairs. But it's a very curious sign. It's a very restless sign. And so even if you aren't a Gemini, or if you don't have planets in Gemini, Gemini is somewhere in your chart. So it's an energy that you access in a particular part of your life, because, just a friendly reminder, you are all 12 signs. You're not just your sun sign. You are all 12 signs somewhere. You just have certain signs more highlighted than others. So we're in a very curious and restless season. We're moving, we're traveling, hopefully do it safely. We're seeking out new ideas and information. Now, this new moon also comes 2 weeks before a lunar eclipse. So yes, we are pretty much at this point in eclipse season. The lunar eclipse will be on June 5th. It will be at 15 degrees of Sagittarius. If for those who have been paying attention, this is the first eclipse in the series of Sagittarius and Gemini that will take us all the way to the end of 2021, because we're sort of on the divide with this eclipses. There's actually 3 of them, and it's not common to have 3. Usually it's just 2, but we have 3. We have the one on June 5th, we have the one on June 21st, and we have the one on July 5th. So the ones on June 21st and July 5th are bringing us to the end, bringing to a close the eclipses in Cancer and Capricorn that we were having since July of 2018. That's why in today's horoscope update for today's astrology, I talked about what, July 2018, maybe it was on Instagram that I did this, but how today's Cancer moon is sort of kind of echoing the fact that we are getting to the end of this story, and how 2018 and 2019 and parts of 2020 were about getting us all collectively back in touch with what really matters. Cancer is a sign that talks about heart and emotions and emotional connection and softness. And when the world is hard and the world is difficult, when things are going, certain things that are going on right now, what do we need? We have to really pay attention to the Cancer part of our chart, or even just pay attention to our own emotional needs. So the fact that the moon is in Cancer right now is just a kind of a friendly reminder that this is where we're at. We're sort of still in these energies of the Cancer eclipse coming up. It's still about home and family. It's still about getting our needs met and, feeling safe and secure. That said, this new moon that we just had opens us up into a lunar month that will have a lunar eclipse. It's bringing in a new story. So really pay attention to the stories that are going on right now, the thoughts that you're having, the choices that you're contemplating. The full moon in 2 weeks will be in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is a sign that's about faith and wisdom. What do we believe in? How do we see the world? We right now can't really travel the same way that we used to. So, the South Node right now, the moon's in Sagittarius. So we have to sort of work something out. We can't quite move forward in Sagittarius. It's about the past instead of the future. The North Node's in Gemini. We have to get new perspectives. We have to get new ideas. We have to innovate. We have to sort of see things from another angle. We have to kind of get back to basics in a way. So this week, this week in particular, we might be seeing some themes come up, some themes around faith and truth and wisdom and choices and learning, and what does it all mean? So these are kind of questions that we're going to be contemplating. Somebody, and it happens all the time. I always get the oh, I can't take any more changes, and I don't know, maybe this is just me being a Scorpio, but life is kind of constantly doing that wheel, that turn. And every 6 months we have eclipses. And every 6 months, it is as if the curtain comes down on one act in our life, and a curtain comes up on the next act. And sometimes that act is completely different. And sometimes that act has completely new cast of characters that come in. That's kind of where we're at right now. One act, one story is closing and a new one's coming in. We're going to be on a different stage in a moment as we sort of pivot from Cancer and Capricorn to Sagittarius and Gemini. And so eclipses sort of keep life moving. It sort of keeps the narrative, it keeps things, people coming in and out. Otherwise, things might get stagnant. You can bet on eclipses. You know that wherever an eclipse is happening, the story is changing. So not everybody is going to see a dramatic change over the next few weeks or going into eclipse season into July. For those signs that might feel it more, it's your Sages, your Geminis, your Cancers, and your Capricorns. Those are kind of the four that are in it the most. I mean, I would also toss in there Pisces and Virgo, because you're getting what's called the square with these eclipses. And then you have your Aries and Libras also, because they're getting the squares as well. But that's a thing. Life is sort of taking a turn right now. Eclipses aren't necessarily bad. They can presage a move. They can presage a new relationship coming in, the birth of a child, a marriage, a new job. They sort of punctuate life's milestones. Eclipses and also Saturn. Those are the kind of the two forces that sort of mark time in our lives. So right now, we're in eclipse season. Life's going to get interesting. It's just kind of the way it is. So yeah, kind of pay attention to what's going on. Like I said, the choices that you're making, the thoughts that you're having. This is, we're at where we were at in July 2018 when the new eclipses were starting to come in into Cancer and Capricorn. I know, like in July 2018, I was in Italy. I would very much like to be there right now. I'm very much missing all that really great food. I'm just looking at the comments, and sure, yeah, I got put all my glasses on. So sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. She's like, yeah, oh boy, like she's Sag rising. I'm Sag rising as well. So I'm in a similar boat. Life's kind of twisting and turning for me as well. It's kind of remains to be seen what it is. But if you're a Sag rising, it means that those North Node eclipses, especially as you go into the end of 2020, is in your relationship sign. So for Sag and Sag rising, it's about bringing in new relationship and, from your lips to God's ears. But so we'll see. We will see. This week, to that point, Mercury, it's in Gemini right now. It'll meet up with the North Node in Gemini on the 28th. So right before Mercury goes into Cancer on May 28th, it meets up with that North Node. And this is, I believe, Wednesday, if I'm remembering that correctly. It could be Thursday. Sorry, I don't have a calendar in front of me. But on the 28th, we might see on the 27th and 28th sort of experiences that sort of talk about what this eclipse season is about. So maybe you're having a fortuitous meeting. Maybe you meet somebody, period. Maybe you get a job offer, or you decide to, in the spirit of Gemini, teach a class, write a book, go back to school, all that good stuff. And then Mercury then goes into Cancer. So Mercury actually is going to spend quite a bit of time in Cancer. It's not going to leave Cancer until August 4th, because next month Mercury is going retrograde. So it's going to do its retrograde in Cancer. Now, Mercury is the sign of information and learning and choices. And in Gemini, it's generally straightforward. I will say generally, because we just had a Gemini moon that had a lot of Neptune involved. So that means that this lunar month, this Gemini lunar month, has a Neptune feel to it, which is more about how do we align our choices and our ideas with something greater than ourselves. Because Neptune talks about spirituality, it talks about forces that are beyond ourselves, and that's sort of where this murkiness of Neptune could come in. It can pull away from, well, our ego wants something, but here comes Neptune, and Neptune doesn't do ego. So we're sort of feeling that we want one thing maybe this lunar month, but what's the higher calling, what's the higher path, what's the higher purpose to what's going on right now. But that said, Mercury is going to be in Cancer, and Cancer is a water sign. It's about feeling and intuition. So we're going to have a few months where our ability to think and to learn and to communicate is going to be through the lens of Cancer, feeling, heart, empathy. We're all going to have to get a bit more sensitive over the next few months. And then when Mercury goes retrograde, we sort of have to maybe take a second look at how we experience empathy, how we communicate our feelings with one another. That's, a retrograde is not a bad thing. And I know I get this from time to time with people. We had 3 planets a couple weeks ago turn retrograde pretty much all at once: Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter. But any planet, Jupiter outward, spends 4 to 5 months retrograde. So it's a very common thing. Venus right now is retrograde in Gemini. It'll be retrograde until the end of June. So we're having to take a second look at what we value, the value of our choices, the value of our ideas right now. But when Mercury goes retrograde, which it does every 3 months, it's a time for us to take a second look at our choices and how we do Mercury, how we communicate, how we move, how we travel. And now we need to kind of make sure that we're doing it with empathy, with heart, and with connection. Just checking in on the comments. Dee asks if I do charts. Yes. Shameless plug, go to my website, empoweringastrology.com. You can book time with me. I do client consultations, and I've been doing client consultations since 2012, pretty much. So yeah, do keep in mind that going into June, which is right around the corner, we start, June 1st is next Monday. We're in a new month, and we're in a month where it's going to be about Mercury retrograde, eclipse season, feelings, choices, all that good stuff. So, to that point about eclipses, I'm just going to quickly talk about something that I'm going to be involved in. And if you're watching live, I don't have this in the show notes yet, but if you're watching on the replay, it will be in the show notes. I've been invited to do a free webinar on the eclipses. This will be on Saturday, May 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern. The title is called Eclipses and Initiations. And I was invited to speak with 2 other astrologers, Christina Caudill and Virginia Rosenberg. And we're all going to sort of present a little bit about this upcoming eclipse season, what's going on, and how eclipses are initiations. And eclipses are powerful. I mean, if you think about it, in just some quick astronomy, the eclipses, they happen every 6 months. It's because that's when the new moon and the full moon line up with the ecliptic. And if it just so happens to line up a certain way, that's why we have 3 eclipses this season, not just your normal 2. But the moon completely gets obscured by the earth. The sun gets completely obscured by the moon. It's really a powerful time. Something, the light goes away. And so, I would sometimes call this time, the eclipse season, the gateway. It is a gateway. It's a vortex. It's a vortex of energy. We start to feel that there is some sort of liminal and transitional quality to this time. Um, we sense, and this is certainly conversations that I've been having with people recently, we have things coming in. We can sense that we're right on the cusp of something different. Now, mind you, I've pretty much been in quarantine for 9 weeks in my one bedroom apartment in New York City. So there's a sense of that this time for me, and maybe you can relate. It's pregnancy. It's a sense of, kind of being in this in between space and sort of waiting for the next life and the new life. So there's going to be, maybe this is the thing about us coming out of this time. Again, I realize that this, the virus and quarantine means different things to different people in different parts of the world. I know I have clients in Spain and Italy. But when we get out of this, like, who are we? Who do we get to be? Something that my spirit guides have said to me over and over again, and especially in client consultations over the past couple of months, is that the people that we were in February don't exist anymore. And I say this as a Scorpio, that we now need to have the, courage to let something proverbially die. So, on the other side of all of this, especially, by the way, and I have mentioned this before, but Mars goes into Aries on June 27th. And if you know your astrology, Mars in Aries is like stepping on the gas. The car is just like taking off. So right now, Mars is in Pisces. We all have to sort of rest and reflect and search our souls and find the answers within. But come June 27th, and Mars will be in Aries for 6 months. Normally it's 6 weeks. We're going to be really moving and on the go. So there might be something about that time going into the summer where there's a lot of action, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of shifts and change. So we'll see. One of the reasons why Mars spends 6 weeks, or not 6 weeks, 6 months in Aries is that it's going to go retrograde on September 9th. So from September 9th to November 13th. But that part of that Aries part of your life is just going to see a lot of movement, a lot of power, a lot of kind of gas in the proverbial engine the second half of this year. So what are we doing on the other side of this? And I think we all need to have a lot of courage right now, Mars. And, also Chiron is also in Aries. We need to have courage to be the people that we need to be right now and to live the lives that we need to live, the lives that we need to live right now. And I'm, when I say this to you, I'm saying it to myself because I've been using this time. And I've also been working very hard during this time to work on myself and to prepare whatever I need to prepare within myself for this other side. Because I think that, early on in this process, I kind of came into myself and there was this kind of realization that a lot of the old stuff didn't matter anymore. The old stories, the old excuses, the old pains, the old hurts. And life can change in a week. It can change in a 2-week period. And we might kind of have to come back to this. I hope we don't have to. But I think that there was some personal resolutions early on to just stop with a lot of old stuff. So I share that in case you too need that little push of encouragement to sort of, on the other side of this, whatever this is, whenever that is, that you get a chance to live the life that you've been wanting to live. We're in a time when we cannot live small anymore. So whatever ideas are brewing on your end, may they find whatever they need to, find their place in the world on the other side of this. So it's a beautiful time. It's kind of a terrifying time. I know this time is not easy for everybody. So I really say this, like, I really hope each and every one of you are doing well at this time and are able to use this time to your advantage. But like I said at the beginning of the call when the live broadcast, that the work that I do is for healing and transformation. This is astrology for healing and transformation. And how do we open up ourselves so that we can inhabit the astrology in the best way possible? So with that in mind, that's the astrology for this week. Do check out the show notes. We'll have the link to the eclipses as initiations webinar, a free webinar. That's on Saturday, May 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up to watch the replay, but just for a limited time. I think it's usually about 24 hours that you can watch the replay, because I know a couple of people have said to me, oh, I'm busy, I can't watch the webinar then. So follow me on Facebook if you don't already. I'm Empowering Astrology. I'm on Instagram, Empowering Astro. I'm on Twitter. And now I'm on Spotify. You can also go to my website, empoweringastrology.com, book a consultation. I would love to connect with you and talk to you. So thank you so much for your time and your support and getting to know me. I know you say to me, like, I feel like I know you. Well, welcome. Nice to meet you. Stay safe, and we will talk again next week. Bye.